The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive station built by 17 civilizations over 3,000 years. Inside its crystalline walls, Ambassador Threen of the Vakari Empire watched the holographic display with growing irritation. "Another human ship," he muttered, his 4 eyes narrowing. "They multiply like parasites." Beside him, High Chancellor Vex of the Confederation clicked her mandibles in agreement. Indeed. In merely 2 centuries since their discovery of faster-than-light travel, they have established colonies on 47 worlds. It is unprecedented. The Council had convened to discuss what they called the human problem. Humanity had burst onto the galactic stage like an unruly child, ignoring protocols that had been established for millennia. They traded with everyone, asked too many questions, and worst of all, they laughed at threats. "Their technology is primitive," said Warmaster Karath, a massive reptilian creature whose species had conquered 12 systems before joining the Council. "Their ships are slow. Their weapons are crude chemical rockets and fission bombs. They pose no threat." "Then why," asked Ambassador Threen, "did the Xelon Syndicate lose 3 cruisers trying to claim the human colony on New Terra?" Silence fell across the chamber. The Xelon incident had been embarrassing. 3 massive warships, equipped with plasma cannons and shield generators, had been destroyed by what the humans called kinetic kill vehicles, simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. The humans had also used something called nuclear mines that had torn through Xelon shields like they were paper. "Luck?" Karath growled. "Nothing more." "Perhaps we should open diplomatic channels," suggested Chancellor Vex. "Understand them better before we act." "We did," Threen replied coldly. "They sent us their response." The hologram shifted, showing a human in a blue uniform. She was young by human standards, with dark skin and sharp eyes. Captain Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Fleet. To the Galactic Council, her recorded message began. "We received your demand that humanity cease expansion and submit to Council authority. After careful consideration, our answer is no. We will continue to explore, settle, and trade as we see fit. Any attempt to enforce your demands will be met with appropriate force. We hope you choose peace. But if you choose war, we will show you what humans are capable of." Captain Santos out. The Council erupted in outrage. Species from across the galaxy shouted over each other, demanding action, calling for fleet mobilization, threatening annihilation. Ambassador Threen raised a hand, and his voice boomed across the chamber. "Enough. The humans have made their choice. The Council has no option but to respond." He turned to Karath. "Warmaster, how long would it take to assemble a punitive fleet?" Karatha's eyes gleamed. "I have 400 warships within 3 jumps of Earth's primary colony, New Terra. I can have them in position within 1 standard cycle." "Make it so," Threen commanded. "But transmit one final warning. Give the humans a chance to reconsider. We are not barbarians." The message was sent within the hour. It reached the human colony of New Terra, a thriving world of 10 million souls orbiting a yellow star much like Earth's sun. The colonial government read it, debated for exactly 12 minutes, and sent their response. No. 1 word. 1 syllable. 1 answer that would change the galaxy forever. Warmaster Karath smiled as his fleet assembled. 400 warships, representing 7 different species, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Against them stood the human defense fleet stationed at New Terra, 15 ships. The humans had to know they were doomed. They had to understand that resistance was suicide. Yet their ships did not flee. Instead, they moved into a defensive formation around their colony, like ancient warriors making their final stand. "Foolish primates," Karath muttered as his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. "They will learn respect." But something was wrong. Karatha's sensors detected unusual readings throughout the system. Thousands of small objects, each no larger than a shuttle, drifting in seemingly random patterns. Debris perhaps, or asteroids. "Warmaster," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are transmitting." On screen. Captain Maria Santos appeared, standing on the bridge of her flagship, the EDSF Indomitable. Behind her, Karath could see her crew working calmly, efficiently. They did not look like people about to die. "Warmaster Karath," Santos said, "you've made a mistake coming here. Turn your fleet around and no one has to die today." Karath laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "You command 15 ships against 400. Surrender now and I will ensure your people are treated fairly." Santos smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Warmaster," she said softly, "you're not fighting 15 ships. You're fighting humanity. And you have no idea what that means. She nodded to someone off-screen. Throughout the system, thousands of those small objects began to move. Warmaster Karatha's tactical display lit up like a festival of lights. Thousands of red markers appeared, each representing one of those small objects. They were accelerating, moving with purpose and precision. What are those? Karath demanded. His tactical officer's voice trembled. Warmaster, they're weapons platforms. Autonomous drones. They were dormant, hiding in the background radiation of the system. Now they're active. Impossible, Karath breathed. There are thousands of them. When did the humans deploy so many? Unknown, sir. Our intelligence suggested minimal human presence in this system. On the screen, Captain Santos still smiled. You spent 3 weeks assembling your fleet, Warmaster. Did you think we were idle? Every human colony has a defense network. You're looking at just one piece of it. These are what we call guardians. Each one is autonomous, each one is armed, and each one is very, very angry that you threatened our families. Karatha's pride would not let him retreat. Drones cannot defeat a battle fleet. All ships weapons free. Destroy those machines, then proceed to the planet. The Council fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons blazed across the void, missiles streaked toward their targets, and particle beams carved through space. Dozens of Guardian drones exploded in the first volley. But there were thousands of them. The Guardians scattered, their formations breaking into chaos, or what appeared to be chaos. Karath realized too late that they were moving in a pattern, an intricate dance that placed them exactly where his ships weren't looking. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted. Too late. The Guardians struck. They didn't use plasma or exotic energy weapons. They used kinetics, railguns that launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. At such velocities, even a small piece of metal became devastating. Karath watched in horror as a Guardian drone, no larger than a human fighter craft, fired a single shot that punched through a cruiser's shields and hull, exiting the other side and continuing into space. The cruiser exploded, its fusion reactor breached. Then another ship died. And another. Shields aren't stopping them, his tactical officer screamed. The projectiles are too fast, too dense. Our deflectors can't compensate. Across the fleet, panic spread. The Council ships had faced many enemies but none like this. The Guardians were everywhere, moving in ways that defied prediction, firing with lethal accuracy, and when a ship managed to destroy one, 3 more took its place. How many ships have we lost? Karath demanded. 37, Warmaster. And counting. 37 ships destroyed in minutes. This was supposed to be an easy victory, a show of force to discipline an upstart species. Instead, it was becoming a massacre. All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessels, Karath ordered. Ignore the drones. We eliminate their command ships, the drones will become disorganized. It was sound tactical thinking. It was also exactly what Captain Santos wanted him to do. The Council fleet converged on the 15 human ships, which had maintained their position around New Terra. As the distance closed, Karath could see the human vessels more clearly. They were ugly things built for function rather than aesthetics. Thick armor plates, missile pods, and what appeared to be massive railguns mounted along their spines. Fire everything, Karath commanded. The barrage that struck the human fleet would have vaporized any conventional defense force. Plasma, missiles, particle beams, enough firepower to glass a continent. When the light faded, all 15 human ships remained. Damaged certainly. Scarred and burning in places. But intact. Impossible. Karath roared. What are their ships made of? On the screen, Captain Santos was braced against her command chair. Sparks flew from damaged consoles around her. You asked what our ships are made of, Warmaster? They're made of earth steel. Carbon composites. Titanium alloys. Nothing fancy. Nothing exotic. Just the metals and materials we dug out of our home planet, refined through centuries of warfare. She wiped blood from her forehead. You see, Warmaster, while you were building ships with energy shields and plasma cannons, we were perfecting something simpler. We learned how to make things that don't break. The human fleet returned fire. Karath had never seen weapons like these. The railguns fired projectiles at velocities that made the Guardian drones look slow. Each shot was calculated, precise, targeting weak points in ship designs that humanity couldn't possibly know about. Except they did. Somehow they did. A human missile struck Karatha's flagship. It didn't explode on impact. Instead, it punched through the hull, burrowed deep into the ship's interior, and then detonated. The explosion ripped through 3 decks, killing hundreds. "They're targeting our command ships," someone shouted. Another missile hit. Another explosion. Karatha's beautiful flagship, the pride of the Vakari Empire, was dying around him. "All ships retreat," Karath ordered, his pride shattered. "Fall back to the edge of the system." But the Guardians were hurting them, pushing the Council fleet away from escape routes, forcing them into kill zones where the human ships could fire with maximum efficiency. The Great Council Armada, 400 ships strong, broke and ran. Humanity had won its first battle. It would not be its last. News of the defeat at New Terra spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The impossible had happened. The primitive humans, with their crude technology and small fleet, had driven off 400 Council warships. In the Council chamber, the aftermath was chaos. Ambassadors shouted accusations. Warmaster Karath, stripped of his rank, stood in disgrace as species demanded answers. How had this happened? How had the humans known their tactics? How had 15 ships defeated 400? Ambassador Threen called for silence. "We underestimated them," he said simply. "We assumed primitive technology meant primitive strategy. We were wrong." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded Chancellor Vex. "If 400 ships cannot defeat 15, how do we respond?" "We send 4,000, Threen replied coldly. "We mobilize the full might of the Council. Every member species, every fleet. We show the humans that there are consequences for defying galactic order." But not everyone agreed. From the back of the chamber, a new voice spoke. "Perhaps," said Ambassador Kelthrin of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition, "we should ask ourselves why the humans said no." Threen turned, his 4 eyes narrowing. "They are a rebellious species, disrespectful of authority. Or," Kelthrin continued, "they are a free species, unwilling to submit to rules they had no part in making. The Council has existed for 3 millennia. In that time, how many species have joined voluntarily? How many were encouraged?" Uncomfortable silence answered him. The truth was that most Council species had been given a choice: join or face economic and military pressure. Some had resisted. Those species no longer existed. "The humans are not like us," Kelthrin said. "Their world birthed them through competition and struggle. They evolved as hunters, as survivors. Every step of their civilization was earned through conflict. They do not understand submission because they have never truly been conquered." "Then we will teach them," Threen said. Meanwhile, on Earth, Fleet Admiral James Chin stood before the Human Defense Council. The room was deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, protected by kilometers of rock and water. Around the table sat representatives from every major nation, united by necessity and survival. "The Council is mobilizing," Chin reported. "Our intelligence suggests they're assembling a fleet 10 times larger than what they sent to New Terra. 4,000 ships, maybe more." "Can we stop them?" asked President Elena Volkov of the European Federation. Chin hesitated. "Not in a conventional battle. New Terra worked because we had time to prepare, to seed the system with defensive drones. We caught them by surprise. They won't make that mistake again." "Then what do we do?" asked Premier Zhang of the Asian Alliance. Admiral Chin smiled grimly. "We change the rules. The Council thinks in terms of fleets and territory. They fight wars the way they've always fought them. But we're human. We invented guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, and psychological operations. We're going to teach them that holding territory means nothing when your enemy can strike anywhere." He activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. "The Council controls 1,700 settled worlds. That's 1,700 targets. They think we have 15 ships? We're going to show them we have 1,500. We're going to hit them everywhere at once and they'll never know where we'll strike next." "We don't have 1,500 ships," someone pointed out. "No," Chin agreed. "But they don't know that. We have enough ships to hit a dozen worlds simultaneously. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we leave before they can respond. We use drones, we use missiles launched from stealth platforms, we use fear." "You want to terrorize the galaxy?" President Volkov asked. "I want to make them afraid," Chin corrected. "Right now, they think humans are an irritation, a problem to be solved with overwhelming force. We need to make them understand that we're not a problem. We're a nightmare." The plan was approved. Within weeks, human ships began appearing throughout Council space. They struck military installations, supply depots, and communications hubs. They never stayed to fight, never held ground, simply destroyed and vanished. The Council tried to respond, but how do you fight an enemy who won't stand still? They deployed fleets to guard critical systems, but humans struck where the fleets weren't. They tried to track human ships, but human stealth technology refined through centuries of submarine warfare made their vessels nearly invisible. And always after each strike the humans left a message. It was the same message every time, displayed on every screen in every facility they hit. Stop. Live. 3 words that offered peace. 3 words that most of the council ignored. But some didn't. Ambassador Kelthrin and representatives from 37 minor species sent a secret transmission to Earth. They wanted to meet. They wanted to understand. They wanted to know what humanity truly wanted. Admiral Chin read their message and made a decision that would change everything. Prepare a delegation, he ordered. It's time the galaxy learned what humans really are. The meeting was set for a neutral location, an ancient station in unclaimed space, built by a long-dead civilization. Both sides would come unarmed. Both sides would talk. The question was, would anyone listen? The ancient station had no name, only coordinates. It had been abandoned for 1,000 years, a relic from a civilization that had destroyed itself in a war no one remembered. Now it would host a meeting that could prevent another war, or start one that would consume the galaxy. Ambassador Kelthrin arrived first with his delegation of 37 species, representatives from the smaller, quieter members of the council. They waited in the station's central chamber, nervous and uncertain. When the humans arrived, Kelthrin was surprised. He had expected military officers in armor, weapons hidden but ready. Instead, 3 humans walked into the chamber wearing simple civilian clothes. The leader was a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chin, the sister of Fleet Admiral James Chin and Earth's lead xenoanthropologist. "Thank you for meeting us," Dr. Chin said, her voice calm and warm. "We know this took courage." "Your fleet is destroying council installations across the galaxy," said Ambassador Threen, who had secretly joined the meeting against the council leadership's wishes. "You speak of courage while you wage war." "We're defending ourselves," Dr. Chin replied. "The council sent 400 ships to destroy our colony. We responded. Since then, every action we've taken has been defensive or retaliatory. We don't want to conquer anyone. We just want to be left alone." "The council cannot allow independent systems," Threen said. "It would destabilize the galactic order." "Why?" Dr. Chin asked simply. The question hung in the air. Threen opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Because it has always been this way. The council maintains peace through unified authority." "Does it?" Dr. Chin activated a holographic display. "We've studied council history since making first contact. In 3,000 years, the council has overseen 17 major wars, hundreds of minor conflicts, and the extinction of 12 species who refused to join. You call this peace?" "Those species were aggressors," Threen protested. "Were they? Or were they like us, independent civilizations who wanted to chart their own course?" Ambassador Kelthrin spoke softly. "Dr. Chin, help us understand. Why do humans resist so fiercely? Most species eventually see the benefits of council membership. Protection, trade, shared technology." Dr. Chin nodded. "That's a fair question. To answer it, I need to tell you about Earth." She changed the holographic display to show humanity's home world. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful, beautiful. "Our world is a death trap," Dr. Chin said bluntly. "Earth has a molten core that causes earthquakes and volcanoes. Our moon is too large, creating tides that reshape coastlines. Our atmosphere is filled with oxygen, a highly reactive poison that corrodes and burns. We have ice ages every 100,000 years. Asteroids hit us regularly. Diseases evolve constantly to kill us." She paused, letting them absorb this. "And that's just the planet. Humans evolved in competition with predators faster, stronger, and more dangerous than us. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more stubborn. We learned to hunt in packs, to communicate complex ideas, to plan and scheme and never, ever give up." The display shifted, showing human history. Pyramids and temples, castles and cities, rockets and starships. We built civilizations, destroyed them, and built again. We fought wars that killed millions, then created art and music and literature that celebrated life. We split the atom, walked on our moon, and reached for the stars. Not because we're peaceful. Not because we're violent. But because we're survivors. "What does this have to do with the council?" Threen asked. "Everything," Dr. Chin said. "You're asking us to submit to an authority we didn't choose, to follow laws we didn't write, to abandon the independence we spent 200,000 years earning. You're asking humans to stop being human. We can't do that. We won't do that. Not for you, not for anyone." The chamber was silent. Finally, Ambassador Kelthrin spoke. What do you want, Dr. Chin? Recognition, she said. Not membership in the Council, but acknowledgement of our right to exist independently. We'll respect Council space if you respect ours. We'll trade fairly and honor diplomatic agreements. But we won't submit. We can't. The major powers will never accept this, Threen said. They'll see it as weakness, as a threat to their authority. Then they'll force us to keep fighting, Dr. Chin said. And we will. Humans have a saying, we didn't come this far to only come this far. We'll fight until we can't fight anymore, and then we'll find a way to keep fighting anyway. Ambassador Kelthrin looked at his fellow delegates. He saw understanding in their eyes and something else, hope. If humans could stand against the Council and survive, perhaps others could too. Dr. Chin, Kelthrin said slowly, what you're proposing could fracture the Council, destabilize the entire galactic order. Dr. Chin smiled sadly. Ambassador, your galactic order is already fractured. We're just the first ones brave enough, or foolish enough, to say it out loud. The meeting ended with no agreement, but with understanding. The delegates returned to Council space, carrying with them a dangerous idea. That maybe, just maybe, the Council way wasn't the only way. And in the halls of power, the major Council species learned of the meeting and decided that such ideas could not be allowed to spread. War Master Torvith of the Drath Empire had been a soldier for 90 years. He had conquered 17 systems, crushed 23 rebellions and never lost a battle. When the Council's major powers demanded action against humanity, they chose him to lead. 4,000 ships, Torvith said, studying the tactical display aboard his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Against one human fleet that we estimate at fewer than 200 vessels. This will be the shortest war in galactic history. His second-in-command, Commander Vrask, was less certain. War Master, the humans have demonstrated unusual tactical abilities. Perhaps we should. Should what? Torvith interrupted. Should we fear primitives because they won one battle through trickery? No, Vrask. The Council has given me 4,000 ships. I could conquer Earth with 400. I could probably do it with 40. This is not a war. This is an extermination. The Armada assembled at the edge of human space, a fleet so massive that it took 3 days for all ships to arrive. 4,000 warships from 11 different species, representing the full military might of the Council's major powers. It was the largest fleet assembled in 5 centuries. Their target, Earth itself. Not a colony, not an outpost, but humanity's homeworld. The Council had decided that half measures wouldn't work. They would strike at the heart, destroy the source, and end the human problem permanently. Begin the advance, Torvith ordered. The fleet entered human space. Every sensor, every weapon, every shield was active. They expected ambushes, drone swarms, desperate last stands. They found nothing. Where are they? Vrask asked, studying empty sensor readings. Where are the human ships? Hiding, Torvith said confidently. Cowering before the inevitable. Maintain course. They reached Earth's solar system. Still no resistance. The fleet passed Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Still nothing. War Master, Vrask said nervously, this is wrong. The humans wouldn't abandon their homeworld without a fight. Torvith was beginning to agree. Where was the human fleet? Where were the defensive drones that had savaged Karatha's forces? Where was the resistance? They reached Earth's orbit. The blue-green planet turned beneath them, beautiful and vulnerable. Cities glittered on the night side. Satellites orbited peacefully. It looked completely undefended. War Master, the communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Audio only. Play it. Admiral James Chen's voice filled the bridge. War Master Torvith, you've made a terrible mistake. Torvith laughed. I have made no mistake, human. I have brought 4,000 ships to your doorstep. Where is your fleet? Where are your vaunted defenses? Not here, Chen said simply. Did you really think we'd defend Earth the way you defend your worlds? With fleets and orbital platforms? We've studied your tactics, War Master. You gather your forces, you fight your battles, you hold territory. Very traditional. Very predictable. What are you saying? I'm saying that while you brought your entire fleet here, we sent ours to your homes. Torvitha's blood ran cold. No. You're bluffing. You don't have enough ships to attack every Council homeworld simultaneously? You're right, we don't. But we don't need to attack them all. Just the ones that matter. The tactical display exploded with reports. Red emergency signals from across Council space. Torvith read them in growing horror. The Drath homeworld under attack. 3 human battleships had appeared in orbit, bombarding military installations. The Vakari capital system, under attack. Human ships targeting shipyards and defense platforms. The Xelon core worlds, under attack. Reports of massive kinetic strikes against orbital infrastructure. And more. And more. And more. Impossible. Torvith roared. You don't have enough ships. We have exactly enough ships, Chin replied. See, War Master, you made a mistake. You brought 4,000 ships from 11 different species. That means 11 homeworlds suddenly have very few ships defending them. We studied your deployment patterns. We knew exactly which systems would be vulnerable. You would attack civilian populations? We're attacking military targets only, Chin said coldly. Though I note you were perfectly willing to destroy Earth, with its 10 billion civilians, to make your point. We're just making ours. Torvith looked at the tactical display, his mind racing. If he stayed, Earth would fall. But if he divided his fleet to defend the homeworlds, he wouldn't have enough ships to take Earth. And if he returned with his full fleet to defend the Council worlds, Earth would remain free and humanity would win. You planned this, Torvith said slowly. You wanted us to bring everything here. Of course we did, Chin said. You're a predictable War Master. You think in terms of overwhelming force. You gather your strength and strike at the heart. We think differently. We think in terms of cost and benefit. We ask ourselves, what is the enemy value? What will it cost them to fight? What will it cost them to lose? What do you want? Peace, Chin said. Real peace. Not submission. Pull back your fleet. Recall your forces from Council worlds. We'll do the same. Then we talk. No more ultimatums. No more threats. Just 2 civilizations trying to find a way to coexist. Torvith closed his eyes. He had never retreated. Never. But he had also never faced an enemy like this. Pull back, he ordered quietly. All ships withdraw from Earth space. And send a message to the Council. Tell them we need to talk. The Peace Summit was held on neutral ground, an agricultural world called Harvest that belonged to neither the Council nor humanity. For 3 weeks, diplomats argued, negotiated, and occasionally shouted at each other. The Council's position was clear. Humanity must accept some form of Council authority or remain a permanent enemy. Humanity's position was equally clear. Never. But something had changed. The smaller Council species, the ones who had met with Dr. Chin, began speaking up. They questioned whether the Council's way was the only way. They asked why independence was treated as rebellion. They wondered aloud what other paths might exist. Ambassador Threen found himself in an impossible position. He represented the Vakari Empire, one of the Council's founding species. But he had also witnessed the futility of fighting humanity. More importantly, he had begun to understand them. On the 20th day of negotiations, Threen requested a private meeting with Admiral Chin and Dr. Sarah Chin. They met in a garden beneath Harvest's twin suns. Tell me honestly, Threen said, what are humans willing to die for? Admiral Chin answered immediately. Freedom. Family. The right to determine our own fate. And what are you willing to live for? The Admiral paused, considering. Dr. Chin answered instead. The same things. Ambassador, humans don't love war. We're good at it because we've had to be. But we'd prefer peace if we can have it without surrendering who we are. Threen's 4 eyes studied them carefully. The Council has maintained galactic stability for 3 millennia. In that time, major wars have been rare. Trade flourishes. Technology advances. But you're right, it's a stability built on conformity. Every species must fit into the same system, follow the same rules, accept the same authority. And the ones who don't fit? Dr. Chin asked. Are pressured until they do. Or until they break. Threen sighed, a sound like wind through leaves. I've been a diplomat for 60 years. In that time, I've helped bring 17 species into the Council. I always told myself it was for their own good, that they'd benefit from our protection and resources. But perhaps I was simply making them conform. What are you saying, Ambassador? Admiral Chin asked. I'm saying that perhaps the galaxy has room for more than one way of organizing civilization. Perhaps the Council can evolve, can become something that allows for independence while still providing cooperation. The major powers will never accept that, Dr. Chin said. The major powers, Threen said slowly, are not the entire Council. There are 147 member species. Only 11 of them control most of the military and economic power. The rest of us follow because we always have. But what if we didn't? Admiral Chin leaned forward. You're talking about restructuring the Council. I'm talking about revolution, Threen corrected. A peaceful one if possible. The smaller species are already meeting, discussing alternatives. Your resistance has inspired them. If humanity agreed to help, to share your technology and tactics, we could force the major powers to negotiate real reforms. Or start a civil war that tears the galaxy apart, Admiral Chin said. Yes, Threen agreed. That is the risk. But what is the alternative? Continue as we are, with humanity forever outside the Council, forever a threat to be contained? That path leads to war too, eventually. At least this way we're fighting for something better. The Chens looked at each other, some unspoken communication passing between them. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke. We need to bring this to Earth's government. This isn't a decision we can make alone. Of course, Threen said. Take all the time you need. But know this, the galaxy is changing whether we want it to or not. Humanity has shown that the Council's way isn't inevitable. Now we must all decide what comes next. The summit ended without a formal agreement, but with an understanding. Humanity would not join the Council, but would work with reform-minded species to change it from within. The major powers could accept this or face a coalition of smaller species backed by human technology and tactics. The Council's major powers chose acceptance, but not gracefully. They imposed trade restrictions, closed their borders to human ships, and made it clear that humanity was barely tolerated. But they didn't attack, and that was enough. Over the next decade, the galaxy transformed. The Council evolved into something more flexible, more democratic. Dozens of species gained greater autonomy. Some, inspired by humanity's example, left the Council entirely to form their own independent federations. Admiral Chin retired, replaced by younger officers who had never known a galaxy where humans bowed to anyone. Dr. Sarah Chen continued her work, building bridges between species, fostering understanding. And humanity kept expanding, kept exploring, kept pushing boundaries. Not because they wanted to conquer, but because that's what humans do. They reach. They strive. They never stop. But the peace was fragile, held together by mutual exhaustion and careful diplomacy. And in the depths of Council space, some species hadn't forgotten the humiliation of retreating before a human fleet. They watched. They waited. They planned. The attack came 5 years after the summit. Not from the Council, but from something worse. A coalition of exiled Council warships led by Warmaster Torvith, who had never forgiven his defeat. They called themselves the Restoration Fleet. 2,000 ships crewed by extremists who believed the Council had grown weak, that humanity's continued existence was an insult that must be avenged. They had spent 5 years hiding in unclaimed space, gathering forces, preparing for one final strike. Their target: every human world simultaneously. Admiral Chen, brought out of retirement for the emergency, stood in Earth's command center and watched the tactical display with grim understanding. They learned from us, he said. We taught them to strike everywhere at once. Now they're using our tactics against us. Can we stop them? President Volkov asked. She had aged a decade in 5 years, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. Not everywhere, Chen admitted. We have 200 ships spread across 47 colonies. They have 2,000, all concentrated for maximum impact. They'll hit our colonies simultaneously. Some we can save. Some. He didn't finish. How many will we lose? Conservatively? 10 to 15 colonies. Worst case? 25. That's anywhere from 50 million to 200 million dead. The room went silent. After all they had survived, after everything they had accomplished, it came down to this. Humanity's colonies scattered like seeds across the galaxy, and an enemy with enough ships to burn them all. What about our allies? Someone asked. The reformed Council species. They've offered to help, Chin said. But their fleets would take weeks to arrive. We have days, maybe hours. Dr. Sarah Chin, invited to the Council despite not being military, spoke up. What if we don't defend the colonies? Everyone turned to stare at her. Explain, President Volkov said carefully. They expect us to divide our fleet, to try saving everyone. That's what any rational commander would do. But humans aren't always rational. What if we do the opposite? What if we gather every ship we have and strike at Torvitha's fleet directly? That would leave the colonies defenseless, Admiral.